Alright, just want to make sure I am recording. And I'm gonna check one more time. Okay, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and whatever time zone you're in. This is not a walkthrough. Officially, this is it for the Turing test walkthrough. We finished it, and we pretty much 100%. We pretty much 100%. It's everything's done. Everything's done in the Turing test. Plenty of time too before February 21st when this game gets removed from PlayStation Plus. If it becomes free in PlayStation Plus in the future, I might get it. Just because if I do a sci-fi day, I wouldn't mind playing this game again. But in like small, like, if I have nothing else to play, then this would probably be the game I play. Okay, so let's get the scheduling. Yeah, talk about the scheduling, and then we'll move on to officially the verdict video, because that's what you guys are here for. This will be in 1080p because I didn't think it needed to be in 4K because I've done 4K reviews and verdicts before. Excuse me. But, I mean, it doesn't really have to be 4K. I mean, you finish the game and you've probably seen the graphics and everything in HDR. There's kind of no point to do the verdict video in 4K. I just like to put it out there right away, and then we're done with it. So, what's going to be with the scheduling is, now that we finish the Turing test, the game that we're going to be heavily focusing on, trying to finish off before February 21st, is going to be Saints Row the 3rd Remaster. I'm excited to play it. Sad that it's going to be removed from PlayStation Plus. I don't think there was a reason they should have did that. It's such a great game, so I just kind of think that's an odd choice, but hey, I get to play the game. I technically have it on the Xbox 360, so even if I don't get to play all of it, or, get all the trophies, that's okay. I have the game on the Xbox 360, so if I really want to play it, I can just go play it back up there. It's not a huge big deal. Alright, so that's going to be pretty much the Monday through Friday. So it's Wednesday, so we're going to finish up Saints Row 3rd Remaster coming tonight. And pretty much Fridays through Sunday. Saturday is tentative, but we're going to be finishing up the D section. And once we're done with the D section, then I think we'll go back to Saints Row 3rd Remaster, or we'll try to do the E section, which is not that many games. Alright, so now that's the schedule pretty much coming up these upcoming weeks. And I think the next week is going to be Saints Row 3rd again from Monday to Friday. Then Saturday, Monday through Thursday. Then Friday through Sunday, that's going to be, I think we'll have the D section done by this week. Then we'll focus on the E section and possibly the F section. Maybe getting started on that next Sunday. Yeah, I think that's a good time frame in scheduling. So, now let's go into the Turing test verdict. I had to really think about this one because I highly enjoyed it. More than I should have. Oh, the intro music's not playing. Which is fine. I really had to think about it. That's kind of ironic that you have to do... The Turing test is designed to basically have an AI think that they're human and be sentient. I mean, that's kind of the point of the game, but... I thought I was going to give it, like, a 9, but I don't think it did anything, like, noteworthy to make it a 9. I don't think it's a 7. I think it can earn a 7, but I'm going to give it a straight-up 8. I enjoyed it. I think it's going to get 8 out of 10 in my book. And I'll give you the reasons. So, focusing on the negative, we've seen it before. That's kind of one of the negatives I could think of, because the whole solving the puzzles, the platforms, pretty much stealing the orbs, it's because we've seen those puzzle mechanics before, and nothing against the game, I actually enjoy it. But the puzzles are a double-edged sword. On the negative side, we've seen it before. I mean, the Talos Principle already did it. That's kind of one that comes to mind. I've seen it before in Talos Principle. All its majority of mechanics is from the Portal series. So I've seen it before. The pretty much Ava has a portal gun. That's it. And because of that, yes, most of the puzzles were fun, but I've seen them before in the Portal games or the Talos Principle. I haven't finished the Talos Principle. Want to go back to that game? That one is where the puzzles were very unique, and I highly like going back to those. This one, once you saw the puzzle, it's kind of like they're simplistic, but on the negative side, you've seen them before, and there's nothing groundbreaking, there's nothing noteworthy, there's nothing just all that spectacular about them. There were a few that were stand out that I was like, okay, that was actually a unique spin on the puzzle mechanics. And I do like puzzle games. They're not my favorite genre, but when I find an actually good puzzle game, it makes me want to replay the game because I love that challenge of solving that puzzle because it gave me that huge satisfaction. The Turing test, it was kind of like a half and half. Some puzzles gave me a great gratification, but some of them just were kind of like, I've seen that before, did there, done that, let's get through the story. So that's kind of one of the negatives. I was gonna kind of nitpick on the visuals, like it's not the greatest, but it's not like necessarily bad. It's just it's something noteworthy too, but I don't think that's worth a negative. I can't say anything about the music because they just repeat the music all over. It's peaceful, calming, but that's not really a negative. So I can't put that in the positives, and I can't put that in the negatives. So really, the major negative is we've seen it before. I think that's the only negative I can come with, which is impressive. That's actually impressive. I can only come up with that negative for this game. So this is going to be a short walkthrough. Okay, so in terms of the positive, okay, the scientific concept and terms that they actually implement, or let's just focus on the story. The story, in terms of the breadcrumbs, are done exceptionally well. It's done in a very well done way. It doesn't have like the strongest ending, but I think the ending fits for this type of story. You could say the ending kind of wrapped itself kind of like too neatly with the two different endings, but I think it was kind of fitting for this. So I didn't walk away disappointed. It just wasn't like the strongest ending, but I still will put it as a positive for the whole story. I love the whole like Tom, you're controlling Tom. I love that twist where basically you think you're controlling Ava. No, Tom is physically and psychologically controlling her and the crew because of like microchips or specific implants. That was a really good twist, and I have to admit. So the story pacing that you guys saw, I think the story pacing and the actual story was well done, and the pacing to get to the end was extremely well done too. And plus I think all the audio logs that we got to hear in snippets in those optional dungeons or the restricted access, I think they really heightened and made the story even much better. It just kind of gave you like a what if, or like it really made you ponder of consciousness or what's the difference between a human and a machine. Those are some pretty chilly monologues, I imagine, but yeah, it just gave you kind of interesting theories and just throughout the whole thing. I love when game actually makes you doesn't give you the full story. I like that. I like that the game gives you the option to actually think about it. Because everyone's gone to Rapture's done that approach where they don't tell you the story fully, they let you figure it out. There's a lot of games that do that. It's kind of commonplace, but this is one another exception where the story doesn't tell you everything. They let you figure it out or read the audio logs, or they let you piece the story together. And it's a story fundamental that's been done before, even to the days of Bioshock and before that. But I appreciate it in this game because it just really enhanced the experience about it. I just liked it. I like looking for the collectibles. I like the story pacing of where it's going. I like the twists and turns that we got. And I think it had a fitting ending. That's what I'm trying to say in terms of the story. So I think the story can play once, and I think you can get everything done in terms of achievements, in terms of the story. But I felt like the story was well done for what it was. I wouldn't mind going back to it because I think for the second time or third time you play around, I think there's just so many good subtle hints that when I'm watching like my YouTube videos when I first started this walkthrough, I think they did really well with its subtlety and foreshadowing. I think they really did a fantastic job of doing it. I'm actually impressed of how well done the story was. Now, moving on. I can't really say a lot about the characters because it was just like it was a minimal cast in a sense. You didn't see anyone besides Sarah, Ava, and Tom, even though he's a robot. He's an AI. But those are really the minimal cast. But you hear everybody else, and I have to say, I think the cast were pretty well done. That's another positive. I think the cast were really well done, and they had strong writing too. Special mention goes to Tom, and I think Sarah had strong writing too. But yeah, most of the cast just brought like their A game. For a cast of unknowns, I think they were pretty well done. Nothing against Ava. I wasn't like too impressed with her, but I think she was good as our kind of personal lens. Her writing wasn't bad, but compared to Tom, Sarah, and the rest of the crew, I think those guys had the stronger writing compared to Ava. But I think Ava was cast well. I just don't think her writing was as strong as the other casts. But in terms of like pretty much the writing, I think that was top notch. Well, not I won't think it was top notch, but I think it was fantastic. I have exceptions for top notch. Fantastic. I think the writing was fantastic. I think it was good for once. And it wasn't just the writing too, in terms of the audio. I think the visual, pretty much when I was looking up the Chinese phrase, you had a nightmare and all that, I think that was really well done too, because it was relevant to the plot. So I think that was pretty well done and a really good job on their end on terms of the writing. I think the writing was just pretty much great across the board, from audio to visual to pretty much text. I think it was just fantastic. Yeah, and if I have to say, whoever plays Tom, give him more work. Like Anthony Howe from Observation, give this Tom work. I think he had the best voice. I think he had the best writing. He had the best lines. He was the best character, even though he was the villain. I just liked his character, even though he was an AI. Yeah, I just say get the guy more work. I'm gonna look up his name after this video, but yeah, I highly enjoy Tom, and whoever had the brilliant choice of casting Tom. Yeah, fantastic. He was a fantastic choice. Enough said. Okay, so what other things too? Yeah, this is to be short. So we'll combine it. I think the environmental and the puzzle will combine it. I think the environment was pretty to look at. Nothing groundbreaking, but it was pretty to look at. That's pretty short. But the puzzle physics. So, kind of like what I mentioned with the puzzle physics, it's kind of a double-edged sword. We've seen it before, but when the game actually tried some new stuff, like with the moving platform or with the kind of green, purple, pink, and blue, and then the restricted access, just kind of like thinking outside the box scenarios, even though that's the name of the trophy, but kind of think of outside the box scenarios of what we would do in her situation. I just thought the puzzles on the other side of the spectrum, the positive side, they were actually creative. And they were kind of like, aha, I would have never guessed that. Yeah, and when they really wanted to ramp up the difficulty level of the puzzle levels, I think they did pretty well when they actually tried. But there were some moments on the negative side that they took ideas from Portal or Talus, but when they tried to implement their own ideas or their own puzzles, I think they largely succeed. It was kind of cool to go through some of the puzzles that actually gave us a try, or like, aha, I came up with a solution. And that's kind of the point of a puzzle game. And I think they did pretty well on half of the puzzles, just not all of them. But it's enough to give it a positive, and because the story and the writing were pretty well done, I have to give this my final verdict at 8 out of 10. You guys might disagree with me. This might be a game that it just gives a whole lot of information. Writing talks about the Chinese room, the imitation game, pretty much consciousness. Definitely Ivan Pavlov's classic conditioning. It might not be your cup of tea. I think I know the audience know that they're pretty much into cinematic games or just like specific games. So I don't think this will be like your ideal game, but if you just like to think outside the box, be analytical, or just kind of like think about is AI and human pretty much what's the difference between them, this will be your cup of tea. I think it's good to try once, and I think 8 out of 10 is fitting because you can get 100% out of this, and it's pretty good for a rent. Yeah, I think maybe that's why PlayStation Plus is taking that away because not a lot of people is gonna play it, but I think they can finish it. Probably won't earn 100% on this, but I think this is enough for a rent. But you probably won't go back to it after you do one walkthrough, unless you just are you really enjoyed the story, which I did, and you're just playing it for the second time to say, "Oh, he already mentioned that." So yeah, there's my full analysis. Pretty much the review. I could go into theories and all that, but I think I just want to focus on the review. And 8 out of 10 is kind of my for the final verdict of what I'm trying to convey. So, of course, guys, leave a like or comment or subscribe, as you guys already know. And we'll be moving on to Saints Row 3rd later today, as I already mentioned the scheduling. So, of course, Tom is watching, and stay tuned.